What is up? Thank you for coming to my channel, Prison POV. Shout out to the joiners, shout out to the point of view crew, and today we're going to talk about the Fresno Bulldogs. And just as their name implies, they're from Fresno and the outlying areas. And although I have come across white bulldogs and I've seen black bulldogs, they're primarily a Hispanic gang. They're a gang on the streets, and they're a gang in prison. And since I'm from Bakersfield, and I do all my reception time at Wasco Reception, and they're from Fresno, and they likewise do all their reception time at Wasco Reception, every time I go to prison, I'm doing time with the Bulldogs. Each and every time. And so with that being said, I'm very familiar with their program and their politics. And their politics are basically none at all. Non-existent. They don't have a shot caller. They don't have rules. It's all for one, one for all. It's a free for all. And they run their car quite different. In fact, they don't run it at all. I guess a controlled chaos, if you will. Be that as it may, let's talk about the Fresno Bulldogs. And let me say, the first time I ever seen a knife, a filetto in the state prison system, was from a bulldog. And it's right away in my prison career too. Very first term, first prison I went to, and I was only there a handful of hours. I'd already been out on the yard, met who I need to meet out there, walked around, was told where I could go and where I couldn't go. I'd already walked around the dorm, met who I need to meet there, and was told, hey, what I could do and what I couldn't do. And now at this point, I wanted to just go to my bed area and survey the scene. I didn't want to just kick back and just peep game and check out my new environment for myself. And I had what I thought at first was going to be very cool. It turned out not to be cool at all. And that's a Cadillac bunk. Just one little rack. Just a cookie sheet. No bunk bed. No bunkie. Just one little bed right there waiting for you. And I guess it wouldn't be so bad if it was tucked in the cut somewhere, but they had these things right on Front Street. Because there's one main aisle that connects the day room to the bathroom. And that aisle was lined with those Cadillac racks. And I happened to be in one, and so you just had people walking by all day long. I quickly fell out of love with the Cadillac rack. But while I'm there, kicking back, peeping game, I meet my neighbor, who's a bulldog. And at that time, the Woods and the Southsiders were aligned and got along well with the Bulldogs. See, the Bulldogs, as far as their history is concerned, as far as their allies and enemies, it's been very up and down. Whereas, for comparison, the Woods, going back to the 60s, we've had the same program, pretty much same allies, same enemies. Where the Bulldogs, that's varied greatly, year to year. At this time, Southerners and Woods were aligned with the Bulldogs. Their main enemy they had was the Norteños. That's why the first two prison riots I saw was between the Bulldogs and Norteños. Kicking back in my rack, chillaxing. This dude comes walking up, introduces himself to me. He's a Bulldog. I do not know where he was coming from, but I know he was going to the yard. I figured that out because he showed up in the bed area with his state blues. He had his blue shirt on and his white t-shirt on under that, and he had his state blues and his his blue pants, state issue boots, state issue belt, showed up with his blues on. Quickly started stripping down because I seen him get out his sweats for the yard and his gloves and his water bottle, so I could tell he's going to get fitted up and go out to the yard. So first he's taking off the blue shirt and he's taking off his white shirt and he kicks off the shoes, and I'm thinking, well, I hope his dun-to-the-duns, I hope his chonies are clean. He doesn't have to change those out since he's, changed everything right here in the bed area. I'm being a little sarcastic, but at the same time, I could use this as an opportunity to tell you about unwritten rule. An unwritten rule would be no. There's no way he could change his dun-to-the-duns, his chonies, underwear is right there in the bed area. You have to do that in the shower. When you take your shower, that's when you change out your underwear. But hey, you can feel free to change everything else out in the bed area. Where else are you going to change it out? Where else are you going to change it out at? That was a little tough to get out. Anyways, he's getting ready to go to the yard. I'm just kicking back. I'm only half-ass paying attention because I can't really help it because he's in my peripheral. But I do notice, what I can't help but notice also, is when he finally goes to put his shoes on, he sits down, he goes to put his right shoe on, he can't put his foot in the shoe. And it's really causing somewhat of a commotion and ruckus because he's kind of like wrestling, but then like, he's kind of making a scene, and I can't help it to be like, what's going on with this dude in his shoe? So he's wrestling around with it, finally he just takes the shoe off, reaches his hand in there and pulls out a big old filetto, homeboy. And he was more shocked than I was to see it, and I was very shocked to see it. I couldn't have been more shocked. It's very well made. It's one of them ice pick styles. So he was looking at it like, where'd you from come? Then you could tell by looking in his eye, he regained his composure. He recalled, oh yeah, I remember you. I put you there earlier. I'm guessing that ran through his mind. Because then what he did was, he put it back. Put it right back in the shoe. Why not? You know, you don't, if it's not broke, you don't fix it, and you put everything right back where they came from, because there's a place for everything, and everything has a place. And this obviously belonged in the shoe, with or without the foot in it. So he just crammed his foot in, and he said, all right, good meeting you, Wood, and he hobbled off. It reminded me of the time, one time I got pulled over several years ago, and I had a syringe in my pocket. And when the cop was walking up to the car, I did not want him to find that. So I was going to pull it out of my pocket and put it inside my shoe. Because likelihood of him digging around in my shoes is not that great. So when I pull it out of my pocket, though, the orange cap is now missing. No orange cap, no cover. I'm just looking at a needle. And I'm like, snarf, snarf. I still continue to put it in my shoe. And when the cop had me get out and walk, I was hobbling because I was getting poked around. But moving right along, I'm going to tell you this story. But let me tell you right now, I take no joy in telling this story. It's a sad story. It was a sad day for the woodpile when this went down. But the Bulldogs really got this Wood. Sent him out on a stretcher. It was a bad scene. But the Wood got off first. See, Trip, at the time, there was a very heavy rule among the woodpile. No programming in the buildings C3 and C4. They're dorms. You cannot go in there and program with the Bulldogs. What you do is you have to go in there and you have to get off on somebody. You punch somebody. It doesn't matter who it is. You walk in, you punch someone, you leave. Immediately. I mean, if you have to stick around for an hour or two, to gather your thoughts and maybe muster up your courage, okay, but immediately, ASAP, you walk in there, you take off on somebody. And now when picking your victim, I always thought they would throw me in there, I would take off on someone from Bakersfield. I'd walk in there and be like, huh, who's my homeboys? Who's here from Bakersfield? I'd meet them and say, why are you here? Some people take off on Bulldogs. Some people take off on the shot caller, the key holder for the Woods. Like, why are you running this kind of a building like this? So it just all depends. Some people pick a rando. This Wood, though, and I know where he's from, and I know where his name, he's going to remain anonymous. He decided to go in there, and he thought, I'm going to get a Bulldog shot caller. But see, what he didn't realize, the Bulldogs did not have shot callers. So when he went in there, though, and he said, hey, where's the Bulldog shot caller at? And they're like, well, you know, they don't have one. He's like, what? He's like, well, what am I going to do now? That was my plan. Now he's like, kind of like off guard. He's like, what am I going to have to quickly come up with like another plan? What do I do now? And he thought, well, what I'll do is they may not have shot callers, but certainly they have veteranos. I'm going to go for older dude because even though he may not be a shot caller, I'm sure the younger dudes respect him as a veterano. And they're learning from his wisdom, and he set an example for him. So I'm going to go and take off on one of them dudes. And he found him a dude, an older dude. And he knocked him out and kicked him while he was on the ground. And when I say older, I don't mean old man. He's in his 40s. He was healthy, and he was in a position to fight back. This white boy walked over and cracked him, cheap shotted him. He fell to the ground. He started kicking him. Cops came and broke it up, took the Wood away in cuffs. Now, in the scuffle, though, of course, the white boy, in order to take off on the dude, had to throw down his property that he received in R&R. His bedding, his clothes, all the stuff got tossed down. You get toilet paper, you get a cup and a spoon. You toss that down naturally. But what he did also toss down, and he should not have, was his ID card. Green ID card goes with you everywhere you go. Keep it on your person at all time. Somehow, he lost it. And the Bulldogs found it. And after they took that Wood out, and they're treating the Bulldog, he just mollywopped, they're like, we're going to get runbacks. And they took that ID card of his and circulated it. Circulated it throughout Walth's reception, like, where is this dude? And they found him in D-Yard. Found him in D-Yard. Now, I heard when the melee went down, that it was such a commotion that you could hear it not only on the other side, but also in the next building. Because what those Bulldogs did, first of all, let me tell you, there was some gangster ass shit going on at the time on D-Yard. That Woods and Southsiders were doing to Bulldogs, Bulldogs were doing to us. What you would do is you would put a towel in the door, throw a towel through the doorknob, two people grab hold of it, yank, 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 and that door will come open. CDC literally had to order new doors, send in maintenance workers to come work on the door and alter it and manufacture it in such a way it had a clip on it now where the door could not be popped open, because for a while there, you put a towel in, get it just right, it's going to pop open. And some Bulldogs found that dude because of his ID, and they went and put a towel through there, and they ran up in there, and they just got their run back. Let me put you that way. Wood ended up leaving a stretcher. Last we heard he was in the infirmary. Then we got heard he moved to a hospital in Bakersfield. Who knows what after that. But let me tell you what, Bulldogs tried to come in my cell like that. The old towel trick. And let me tell you, even up until now, to this point, it's one of the most frightening things I've ever experienced. Because no one told me, hey Splinter, there's a little fun little game people play. You know, they put their towel into the door thing, and they'll yank it open, and they'll come in and just beat you senseless. Ha ha ha, it's a cool little thing going around. No one ever told me that. No one gave me a heads up. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was possible. I'm chilling, bro. I'm kicking back in my cell. I'd already worked out. I'd already took a bird bath. I had lunch. So now I was kicking back, just reading my book, enjoying my afternoon. And my cellie, though, bless his heart, my cellie was a 20-year-old youngster doing life. The reason why he's doing life, because him and some of his homeboys murked his stepdad, his mom's husband, got him. And he said he was so shocked when they came and put the cuffs on him. He was bewildered. He was dumbfounded. He had no idea. He didn't even think that it was a remote possibility they'd get caught. He thought, you know what, squirt a little, clean up with some bleach and Clorox, cut that carpet away with the blood stain, burn that, take dude to the lake, drop Marvin. No, ethics smethics. He had no idea the trail was going to come back to him, and he was just flabbergasted, homeboy. And even in the cell with me, he was still somewhat stuck on stupid, stunned that he's even there. He would say stuff to me like, have you seen my hat? And I'd say, bro, you don't have a hat. This is a reception. They don't offer hats here. You might be able to get a hat when you get to mainline. He'll say, well, have I ever had a hat in a cell? And I said, well, if you have, you've been very successful keeping it from me because I haven't seen it. So, bro, I'm kicking back reading my book, and all of a sudden my door just starts shaking like there's an earthquake. Violently shaking. And at first I can't see the dudes that are yanking on it because they were like probably choked back like this. And my window's over here, and they were like leaning back like, wham. So I just know it's shaking. I'm thinking earthquake. I'm thinking the cops are trying to open my cell door and they can't. Stuck like clunk, 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 clunk. It was loud. It was shaking out, and I seen some Bulldogs in the distance, kind of like looking at me and laughing, giving me like a crazy ass look, and I was like, what is going on? Then finally those dudes choked up on the towel a little bit, and I could see it was some guys trying to get in my cell, so I jumped up, and I thought they were coming in. From the sounds of the door, it was going to give any second. I just couldn't believe it, dude. It was going down like this. And I looked up at my cellie, and he went, hey. Now, there's a real fine line between hey and hey, especially when you even get out of your rack. And I'm like this, and you're getting ready to come in. I remember giving him one last look, and he goes, I got your back. And I was like, no, my back is fine. It's my front I'm concerned about. If you could help me with that, I'd be grateful. Finally, the tower cop shoots a block gun at him. That's loud too. I was in the corner. Boom! Block hits off a cell. Ricochet. Because there was no cop in my building at that time. Sometimes the cops, they go back and forth to their side. No cop in my building. Bulldogs took opportunity of that. Tried to get in, homeboy. They didn't get in. I certainly knew about that fun little game afterwards. I shot kites on my homeboys. When the fizz was that? Oh, yeah. The Bulldogs will do that. They'll try to get in. Well, I mean, good looking out. Thanks for letting me know. Homeboy, let me tell you about this game. There is a game that the lowriders made up in Ironwood in the 90s. The lowriders made this game up in Ironwood in the Hole in the 90s. Some people probably try to challenge me on that. No, Splinter, lowriders didn't make that game up. It's my story. I'm sticking to it. And here's the game. And the only reason I'm telling you about this game is because even though the lowriders made it up, I've never seen anyone play it as often and as well as the Bulldogs. When I was in D5, They played it all summer long. And I took immense enjoyment out of it. Here's the game. You take your toilet paper roll. Now that's your football. What you want to do is you want to do a cell abstraction. Anytime you cover up your cell window with cardboard, with magazine, with toilet paper, if you block your window, if they can't see in, they're coming in. They're coming in deep. They're going to come in about 6, 7 dudes. They're going to have big vests. They're going to have forearm pads, big thick gloves and helmets, and they're going to be all suited and booted, homeboy, and they're coming in deep. Your job is, though, if you're playing football and you have your toilet paper roll as your football, your job is as they come in, you go out. Now, if you can get your football past the cell door, homeboy, if you could break that, 3 points. If you get all the way out of your cell, past that little line that all cells have that say don't cross this line, 3 foot outside that cell. Now, if you make it outside your cell with that football, homeboy, touchdown, brother. And I'm telling you, I was in D5, and these Bulldogs were playing it all summer long. And the reason why was there was no punishment for it. At the time, you could not get to the hole to D6 for nothing. They would not take it to D6 with people who were trying to get there. A lot of high-power people back there. We wanted back there to jump off kites and to pick up kites. And they would not allow it. Dude, it seems like no matter what you did, you just get right back in your cell. So you figure you play a good old game of football. You waste the cops afternoon by boarding up and playing a little 5-minute game, homeboy. It's like 5 hours of preparation goes into a 5-minute game. Waste everybody's time, but we're having fun. And they'll just put you right back in your cell. You won't go to the hole, and they'll figure out playing it tomorrow. But look, trip on this, though, as we wind it on down. Trip on this as we wind it on down. I've only made one Booty Bandit cheek busting video. There's only been 2 Booty Bandit cheek busting type situations in all of my 15 years of doing time in the state of California. I made a video the other day and talked about it. Let me get a little bit closer to you. I made one the other day, and there was a method to my madness. There's a reason why I made that video. We'll talk about it later. I'm kind of running a little bit experiment, if you will. Be that as it may, homeboy. I'm in D4, Wasco Reception, Woods, Southsiders, and Pisces on the bottom tier. Asians, blacks, Bulldogs on the top tier. There's 4 Asians. 2 old men and 2 young dudes. What it was, though, they're different nationalities. Like, an old man and a young dude were Korean, let's say, and the other old man, the other young dude were Filipino, let's say. Maybe that might not be exact, give you a good example. Different nationality. So although the 2 old dudes and 2 young dudes living together, they're different nationalities. So one of the old dudes arranged a big cell move, a big bed move, for him to move in with the youngster, same nationality, same language perhaps. He arranged this bed move. The very first night they're in there together, we heard it all night long, crying and whimpering. And they're just only a couple cells down from me, up. All night long, we knew exactly what was going on. Booty Bandit, taking the cheeks. All night long, crying and whimpering. And we don't know, dude, we got to put a stop to this. We better not have to hear this every night. We're thinking, are the blacks going to move on them? Maybe not. They're known for kind of staying out of it and just minding their own business. Homeboy, don't concern them. They may not bust a grape over it. Are the Bulldogs going to? I don't know. I doubt the other Asians are. So we're thinking we're going to have to break out of ourselves to handle this dude. He's a predator. He needs to get got, homeboy. But, dude, the Bulldogs ended up getting him. Give credit where credit is due. And I was actually half-assed surprised and shocked. Not that they wouldn't ride. I just didn't think they politic like that, bro. But I guess it grossed them out just as much as it grossed us out. And the dude who did it, the dude who rushed that old man with a tomahawk and put zippers all over him, is a Bulldog who I could not stand the most, who I liked the least. He had a long ponytail, and he was just forever on his cell, barking, banging, kicking, rapping. Dude, they like to come alive like a 1 or 2 a.m. And you're already in your cell dying and burning up from the Bakersfield summer. I don't know how it's hotter at midnight than it is at high noon. It is hotter in those cells at freaking midnight than it is high noon when the sun is high in the sky, high noon, 115. I mean, that's bad, but it ain't nothing like midnight. I don't know the science behind it, homeboy, but those concrete walls start releasing that heat, and it is just out of line, brother. You're laying there in your boxer shorts on your sheet, just sweating, just trying your hardest to go to sleep, and then you start hearing, shout! I mean, they're just going off, brother. They're known for it. Homeboy, they do what they want. With that being said, I'm going to cut the string and let it fly. Peace!